Hi, family. My name is Crystal, and I am more than excited to share my testimony with you. I'm gonna get to it because I don't want to keep you long. But I grew up in the church. I grew up in an old school traditional church, so I I was born into like the norms of what church was. The stockings, the dresses, the suits, the nice shoes, your hair being done, your nails being done, um, just being holding yourself in a certain way, which was not a problem. I feel like it's made me who I am today. But I got to the point where I was just doing it because it's what I knew to do and what I was told to do, not because I loved going to church necessarily or because I always understood God's love for me or that I had a relationship with Him or that I talked to Him. It's just because that was what my life was about. I got to the point where I associated what I wore with being a Christian, and what I didn't do with being a Christian. So, yeah, I didn't curse and I didn't have sex and I didn't steal and I went to church all the time. So, in my mind at the time, I thought that was enough. Like, I'm good. I pray when I go to church and I pray over my food, and God's grace is sufficient. So I was good. And I got into this very lukewarm place in my life. I was extremely lukewarm. I didn't know Him for myself. I felt like He was my mom's friend or my grandmother's friend, and I knew Him by association, but I didn't know Him personally. And me feeling like I needed to look a certain way to be a Christian um, ended up leading to my insecurities. I felt like I was this ugly child, like this ugly duckling. And I remember when I was in junior high, the few times I did pray, it was out of like needing to understand why the Lord made me look this way. I felt like I just wasn't as pretty as my family, pretty as my sister, as pretty as my mother, and I didn't understand why He made me look this way. Like, what did I do to get this, to be the ugly duckling or to be the bad kid? Um, I struggled with that, and so I felt like I needed to have this much makeup on to be beautiful or to be acceptable, relatively acceptable, or I needed to always be dressed to hide the fact that I wasn't beautiful. Um, I struggled with this, and I believe that because I didn't feel like I was good enough, I overcompensated in other ways. Like I was that friend who went over beyond for her friends because um, I just wanted them to invite me places, and I wanted them to want me around. Um, High school, I went through a lot of friends like that who were just not good friends, and I ended up feeling used and being more insecure, and this kept going until I hit college, and I entered into this Bible study, amazing Bible study, Hope Fellowship, and I ended up meeting my now sorority sisters, and it was a breath of fresh air for me, um, because I was I learned from them that I need to read my word for myself, that I can't be lukewarm, that He spits you out of His mouth when you're lukewarm, and that I need to build a relationship with Him. It's not about um, just doing. It's not about like the rules and the regulations. As long as you do those, you're good. Because we know in our word that um, He will say He does not know me if I'm not doing things with the heart that I'm supposed to do them or under His direction. And so I learned these things, and so I thought life was great. I still was into the religious part of it all, though. I hadn't let that go. I still felt like I need to have my nails done, hair done, everything did. Um, and I felt like that was just important and that I was a better Christian because I wasn't hoochie, per se. I was very judgmental of other people who I felt like weren't doing the things that I had to do or I did. So I hit my first obstacle in my walk and I crumbled because all the insecurities I thought I had got over by building this relationship with Him were starting to come back up again. And I began to hyperventilate going to school class. I was extremely overwhelmed. And I remember calling my mother crying because I couldn't breathe because I had worked myself up into a panic and my asthma had flared up. It was just things like that the enemy was inserting things into my mind to contradict the new relationship I was trying to build with God. I moved away to Florida. When I was there, I was very depressed for the first few weeks. I spent most of my daytime in my room with my lights off, and I would come out at night when my roommates were back so that they would think I was fine. And when my mom would call, I would, be peppy Crystal, who was good at putting a smile on. But I was very, very, very unhappy. And I was forced into a place where I started to remember that relationship that I started to build with him the few months before, like that personal relationship. And I began to miss God. So I started to pray. Even though I was so deep in my depression, I didn't feel like he was hearing me. I felt like I was talking to myself for a while. But I pushed through it to the point where I had like a light bulb moment. And I got up and I left my dorm and I decided I was going to be happy. And I, by the grace of God, ran to some amazing people of God, and I experienced a lot of growth with them. And I was able to build a sturdier foundation in God, not based on the do's and the don'ts of being a Christian, but based on loving him so much that I want to do what he tells me to do. So my crush mode of God turned into a love for him. And so when I came back here to California, I was nervous about leaving Florida because I felt like that was my safe zone and I didn't want to be back here where unhappiness was. But that wasn't the case because I realized that God is who makes me happy. Wherever I am, he's who makes me happy. And I've hit many obstacles on the way, and there's still insecurities I'm dropping off every day as I go along this walk. But for the most part, I can say that I'm so much better, and I'm such a happier person. I'm not worried about, I don't associate being a Christian with the rules and the regulations, because that's not what it is. It's about loving people, loving God, loving yourself, and being obedient to him. There are still times where I completely fall short. I promise. I am completely a work in progress, currently under construction. There's new renovations to come, I promise. But I can say that God has been with me through my hard times, through my disobedience, through my learning who he is, through my ignoring him, through my not getting him, through my anger towards him. I went through all these things. Now I'm at the point where I can say that I am in the process of forsaking things for him every day. And I can't wait till I get to the point where I can honestly say, Lord, I will drop everything. I'm not going to lie to you all and say that there are things in my life that I don't unconsciously put before him, because we all have those things. But I want to let them go. So I was religious. I was phony. I was judgmental. But now I am hope. Love you, family.